Welcome back to our Figma learning series. Last time we learned how to turn our elements into components and efficiently use auto layouts to keep us highly productive and make our designs resilient and easily maintainable. For this session, we will level up our mockup to make it into a prototype. Ready? Let's go. What is a prototype? We make prototypes as a means to add the necessary behaviors and interactions to elements on the page, as it would be interacted with in the final product. For example, for the features, we wanted to scroll to reveal the content that's being clipped. We could also add some options to show up when buttons are clicked. And we may want the page to navigate to a different page when other elements are clicked. It's helpful to visualize the flow in a prototype, and it saves a lot of time in the designing phase when lots of changes are being done. Let's start with the scrolling interaction we want to add to the features area. We select the features frame. Then on the prototype tab, we change no scrolling to horizontal. We can add more elements on the clipped area to be able to see the scrolling behavior more. Now when we click the preview and interact with the features, we see the profile images scroll appropriately. That was easy. Now let's move on to a different interaction, an overlay. I want the web page to show an overlay of the available visibility settings when the drop-down is clicked. But first, we'd have to design how the overlay looks. Then we put it into a frame of its own. When we're done designing, we can select the element we want to add an interaction to. In this case, it's the visibility dropdown. We go to the prototype tab as before. Then we click the plus icon to add an interaction. It's very easy to understand the properties. This simply means we want the interaction to trigger on click, and then we want that click to open an overlay. We want that overlay to be the frame named visibility overlay. And when we select it, we can even see the connection visually on our canvas. Now let's see and preview it. It opens the overlay, but there are some more settings we want to change from the default. I'd like the overlay to close when I click outside of the overlay. I want it to appear right below the setting, and we can set the position manually here. We can even add a background color to signify that a modal is open. And now when we click the drop-down, it shows exactly how I want it to be. Perfect. Now I noticed when we click play, the first frame that shows up is the components frame. By default, Figma chooses the first frame if we don't tell it which one we want to show first. So let's set that by selecting the main frame we want as the starting point. Then we click the Add button under Flow Starting Point. We can rename this to Main Flow. Now, this becomes the first frame that shows up. Let's move to the left sidebar. I want it to stay in place, fixed, when the frame scrolls down. To do that, I group the elements. We can rename it as well for it to be easily identifiable. With it still selected, we go to its prototype settings, and then we select Fixed, Stay in Place, as its scroll behavior. Now when we scroll, it keeps steady even when the content has scrolled. Let's turn our attention next to the right side. the Playdates and Events section. We have to make sure that the layout and the grouping of the elements are correct, so that the scrolling behavior is consistent. For this area, I wanted to scroll with the content until the content reaches the top, at which point I would want it to stay in place. Kind of a mixture of fixed and scroll with parent. That's where a new option comes in. We select the right panel, and under scroll behavior position, we select sticky. This way, it scrolls until it stops at the top edge before the content moves to the edge. Auto layout also works here by adding a bit of space so that the section has a bit of padding and doesn't touch the edge. Look at how it scrolls now with all the scrolling behaviors present. It feels even more like a real website with these interactions. The last interaction we'll take a look at is navigating from page to page. Normally, big websites such as a social media website would have multiple pages that users click and navigate around. When I click this specific playdate, I wanted to open a page with all the details. Let's quickly create a wireframe of what that page would look like. Now that it's done, we go to add the interaction from the playdate as a link. On click, we wanted to navigate to the frame called playdate page. We also want to reset the scroll position for it to always show to the top of the page, just as a real website would react. There's another way to add an interaction. When we're on the prototype tab, we can hover on elements, and when we see a blue plus button, we can click and drag that to where we want the interaction to go. In this case, back to the home page. We'll see the pop-up for the interaction settings just as before. How quick was that? Now let's see how it looks like by clicking the preview. On the main page, we can click on anywhere and we'll be able to see the available interactions marked briefly in blue. Let's click the playdate with the title Afternoon Romp around Echo Park. And it takes us to the page we want. We can also click Go Back to go back to the home page. And that's it. To recap, we added horizontal scrolling for our features area to show the hidden reels. We set the left sidebar to be fixed when scrolling. We set the right side of the web page to stick to the top when the content reaches the edge. We added an overlay interaction to see all the available visibility options. And we added a navigation to a different web page when an item is clicked. These are just some of the interactions we can set using Figma. There are so many possibilities for more interactions, and it's amazing how Figma makes it so intuitive and quick to set up. If you enjoyed this video and found it useful, please give it a thumbs up. Share your projects or ask any question in the comment section below. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon to be notified when the next video is up. I hope you're enjoying your Figma journey. Until then,